some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this, and as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it, but we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth...
I get it. I also hate Joy Behar, so I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird, so I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show, if the CIA is engineering, Antifa and in the Capitol
shift between right and left authoritarianism. And now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, right. whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right.
In the world of televised debate and political commentary, few clashes create the kind of cultural earthquake like what just happened to Sunny Hostin. Known for her strong opinions and confident presence on The View, Sunny became the unexpected epicenter of a double takedown. One executed with surgical precision by Charlie Kirk, and the other delivered with sarcastic brilliance by Joe Rogan. These weren't just soundbite sparring matches, they were full-on ideological demolitions. What makes this event even more shocking is how unplanned and organically brutal the combined critique was. Kirk brought the stats and political acumen, Rogan brought the mockery and street wisdom. And Sunny? She didn't just lose an argument, she got steamrolled by a cultural reckoning that didn't even need to name her. Let's break down how two very different voices exposed one very vulnerable worldview, reshaping the internet and public perception in the process.
They went after our 5,000 students at our event there, of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country, that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis. But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it.
Charlie Kirk wasted no time calling out The View for its misleading portrayal of conservative youth. In particular, he took offense to how Sunny Hostin and others on the show implied that over 5,000 students who attended a Turning Point USA summit were somehow associated with far-right ideologies. Kirk emphasized that these were teenagers, 16 and 17-year-olds, who traveled across the country to hear speakers, only to be defamed on national television. He revealed that legal action was considered because of the damage done to their reputations. His message was clear: disagreement is one thing, but publicly labeling innocent kids crosses a line. This set the tone for a broader critique not just of The View, but of the elite media class it represents.
Even her teleprompter needed therapy. You won't believe how it all went down.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here, because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever.
Sunny Hostin sparked outrage when she referred to non-college educated white women as a core demographic supporting Donald Trump, implying a lack of intellect or awareness. This generalization didn't sit well with many, including Kirk, who argued that intelligence and wisdom aren't limited to college degrees. In fact, Hostin's comments were seen as a prime example of elitist condescension, where media figures view themselves as morally superior due to their education or income. This mindset, Kirk explained, is exactly what alienates the average American voter. He accused Hostin of speaking down to a massive portion of the population, further deepening political and cultural divides. This elitist attitude became a recurring theme throughout both Kirk's and Rogan's critiques.
The culture shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, and if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do, and no one's critically thinking about that.
Kirk's response was far from an emotional rant. It was a calculated, data-driven dissection of liberal media hypocrisy. He used real statistics to dismantle claims made by The View, especially regarding voter demographics. Kirk revealed that minority groups, long assumed to be loyal to the left, were shifting toward conservative platforms, a trend often ignored by mainstream media. He contrasted these facts with Hostin's opinions, showing just how disconnected her views were from actual voter behavior. In doing so, Kirk exposed how The View thrives more on ideology than on truth. The segment became a case study in how to counteract performative media narratives with facts, rational thought, and a calm tone.
The final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue. I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more.
While Kirk struck with data, Joe Rogan arrived with a cultural uppercut. Without even mentioning Sunny Hostin by name, he mocked the very structure and style of shows like The View. Rogan portrayed these talk shows as echo chambers, safe spaces for media elites to virtue signal while pretending they're tackling real issues. He questioned why these personalities are taken seriously when they are so detached from everyday struggles. Rogan's roast wasn't personal, it was philosophical. He went after the shallowness of the format itself and called out the absurdity of media figures acting like sages while never stepping out of their studio bubbles. His casual tone made the critique more piercing. Sometimes humor hits harder than outrage.
And CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested henhouse.
Both Rogan and Kirk exposed what many viewers had already suspected. Mainstream talk shows like The View are less about honest debate and more about reinforcing groupthink. Hostin's studio audience, for example, cheers almost every statement, creating the illusion of consensus. Kirk described it as a rabies-infested henhouse, where bad ideas bounce around without challenge. Rogan, on the other hand, likened it to a therapy session for self-important pundits. Together, they revealed that these shows prioritize applause over truth, optics over objectivity. By peeling back the curtain, they highlighted how this closed system insulates itself from criticism, giving viewers a distorted version of reality that's driven more by performance than principle.
I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin.
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb, but Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
One of the most compelling aspects of Rogan's commentary was his use of plain-spoken logic, something often absent from elite media circles. While Kirk relied on analysis, Rogan stripped the conversation down to common sense, which ironically made his points even more powerful. He mocked the idea that people like Hostin should serve as cultural gatekeepers, especially when they often contradict themselves. He reminded viewers that lived experience, not just academic theory, holds value. His ability to cut through the noise with humor and relatable insights made his critique more digestible and impactful. The contrast between Rogan's grounded style and Hostin's polished but distant persona highlighted a growing cultural disconnect between media elites and everyday Americans.
It's like getting life advice from someone who thinks Whole Foods is affordable.
And the nerve of this woman to whom the country has given so much to try to dump on people who didn't go to college. Look at you. Look at your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sunny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, it's or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that's fine, I guess.
What made this situation remarkable wasn't just the criticism, it was how seamlessly Kirk and Rogan's approaches complemented one another. Without ever coordinating or even referencing each other, they delivered a synchronized dismantling of Sunny Hostin's media persona. Kirk's method was academic and structured, while Rogan's was cultural and instinctive. Yet both landed blows that cut to the core of her credibility. Their critiques didn't rely on personal attacks. They focused on the hollow foundation of her ideas and the detachment from reality that her commentary often reveals. It was an unintentional collaboration that felt almost poetic. Two separate voices from two separate worlds, united in their exposure of the same glaring truth.
The episode of you when you were on The View, when you were running for president, you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
That's right. Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. And then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
That red hat that says Make America Great Again, might as well just put a sticker on the hat.
Despite the public uproar, Sunny Hostin didn't respond directly to the criticism, but silence spoke volumes. According to the video, her lack of response felt like a quiet admission of defeat. Social media, however, filled the vacuum. Memes exploded. Clips of both Kirk and Rogan went viral, dissected and shared across platforms like TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit. The digital world turned her moment of silence into a cultural commentary. This wasn't just about being owned in a debate. It was about a broader shift in how audiences view media figures. Sunny's breakdown didn't happen on air with tears or theatrics. It happened through a collapse in public confidence. A subtle but total unraveling of the image she had curated for years.
Network-funded righteousness.
I get it. I also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set.
The aftermath was a digital storm. Kirk's clip became instructional material for debate teams. Rogan's segment racked up millions of views and was quoted like a stand-up set with a philosophical edge. Social media didn't just amplify the takedown, it immortalized it. Reaction videos, commentary threads, side-by-side edits of Sunny before and after the critiques, everything painted a picture of a pundit who had lost the room. What made it sting more was that the criticism wasn't petty. No one mocked her appearance or tone. They dismantled her ideas, her elitism, and her disconnect from reality. And in today's media climate, when someone loses both the argument and the audience, there's little left to defend.
Some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this, and as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
In the end, what Kirk and Rogan achieved was far more than a takedown of Sunny Hostin. They shattered a larger narrative, one where elite media figures are automatically granted authority by virtue of their platform. The video frames this moment as a reckoning for an entire class of pundits who equate screen time with wisdom. Hostin wasn't defeated by insults, but by being seen clearly. The illusion broke, and once that happens, the audience doesn't look at you the same way again. This was a cultural audit, exposing the manufactured sincerity and selective outrage that drives so much of today's media. What's left behind is a demand for authenticity, and a warning to those who think applause equals truth.
At people thinking, like, if you could stop Hitler by any means necessary, wouldn't you stop Hitler? And so they equate Donald Trump with Hitler and go, here you go, this is our modern Hitler. Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said it's
on television.
Charlie Kirk showed up in his usual uniform, navy blazer, tight haircut, and
In today's polarized media landscape, few moments feel genuinely revelatory. But when Charlie Kirk and Joe Rogan, two men with wildly different audiences, accidentally aligned their critiques, the result was impossible to ignore. Sunny Hostin didn't just endure criticism, she became the poster child for a media class out of sync with reality. Kirk brought the blueprint, Rogan brought the laughter. And together, they didn't just challenge one pundit, they spotlighted a growing hunger for truth over theatrics. As viewers, we're left with a choice: continue applauding the well-dressed echo chambers or demand something real. One thing's for sure, this isn't just about Sunny anymore, it's about everyone who assumes their mic and makeup give them the moral high ground. Because now, thanks to one unscripted tag team, the audience knows better. And once that curtain's pulled back, there's no going back.